Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Stu Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's study, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Wednesday study, the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Walk on Wednesday, actually. Walk on Wednesday is when we bring in a guest, someone part of our community that we think is doing cool things. Pick their brain for about 10, 15 minutes tops. And then we get on with our Srimad Bhagavatam study, but it's always fun because people are interesting. You know what's interesting, Mr. Kastuba?
Tell me. Yes?
So I'm eating breakfast with my mom yesterday.
Okay.
And
Did Jesus come? Is that what you're going to tell me?
You're mocking my very, very authentic story. As a matter of fact, a lot of people have taken your side and said I fabricated the entire show.
Well,
Untrue.
I think that might have been revealed where, she came, you brought it up first and she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember anything like that.
She's 97 years old. She doesn't remember what she talked about yesterday.
And then you put the idea in her mind. And then when she came back, she was like, oh, absolutely. It happened. Jesus came.
It might have appeared that way, but she's been telling me the story my whole life. And after a while, I just stopped talking about it.
Has she been telling it to you or have you been telling it to her?
Jesus appeared to you, right? Right, Mom? Right?
Yeah, sure. Whatever. Okay, what happened at breakfast?
Anyway, we're sitting having breakfast, and then there's like there's like this restaurant in her apartment that she lives in. It's for older people. And there's this one old Indian lady.
The early bird special there?
Anyway, there's this Indian lady. I said, who's the Indian lady? I said, call her over. So one Indian lady comes over, says she's from Chennai. We start talking. I speak a little Hindi to her. We talk about Vrindavan. And my mom's just watching me talk, all about India and, and holy places and how I go to India. And this lady's sort of like, we're really engaging.
She was appreciating your understanding of her culture.
Well, my mom was appreciating my understanding of her culture. My mom just thinks, oh, this guy's a Hare Krishna. But he doesn't understand, like, I know a lot about India and Indian culture, and I can speak the language a little bit. And
parents don't ask about this stuff.
Huh?
Parents don't ask about this stuff to us.
No, they're just like, you're into Krishna. So then she leaves. And then me and my mom are sitting, and my mom was sort of, wow, that was interesting. You know a lot about this stuff. Then this other old Indian lady runs to the table, and she's like, I have to talk to you. It's important that I talk to you. You don't understand. I heard everything you were saying about Krishna. My life, I'm a doctor, and my husband cheated me out of everything. He left me practically homeless. I wrote it all in this book. And she pulled out some book that she just is getting published. And she goes, I told my whole life story in this book. And I wasn't religious my whole life, even though I grew up in a Brahmin family. She goes, but when I was completely destitute, there was a figure in my mind that I could not get out of my mind. And it was Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna, and she's trying to explain Krishna to my mother. Lord Krishna is God. God and consort is Radha. I mean, this was going on. I was just sitting there. I wasn't saying anything. And this Krishna, he's captivated my mind. And he's been calling me for years. He's been calling me. And now I am fully Krishna's. This was happening over my breakfast yesterday.
Amazing.
I know.
Now, did you give that woman a card for the podcast?
No, I told her I did the podcast. And she was like, what?
But now
She
she's never
lost
going to
her
find
mind. Said we
That-
do a podcast on the show.
That's why you carry those little business cards, Raghunath.
You know, old people don't listen to podcasts. They don't even know what they don't even know what an iPhone is.
Raghunath, we have
They're all like
elderly
in their 80s and
people
90s.
here.
Costuba, they can't.
We got
they
Papa
cannot
Tony
figure
listening.
out-
We got all kind of older people listening, Raghunath.
And that, I say older, I mean like my mom's age. They're like can't.
Well, this
figure
woman
out
wasn't your
text-
mom's
I can
age.
send my mom text messages. She won't even get them. You
Huh.
know, it's a different generation.
How old was this woman?
She was probably 80.
Okay.
There
See?
comes a time, and I think in human development, you're like, I'm not interested in learning anything more. You know what I mean?
But this
I'm
woman's
like,
dying to
I'm
hear
getting
about
like
Krishna.
that. People are like,
All
oh,
right.
you should try this
Whatever.
app. I was like, no, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna go there. How are
Did you have a card with you?
No, I didn't have
So
a
her age
car.
didn't
Is this
matter
what you're
anyway,
driving
right?
at?
All right.
Okay, let's welcome our guest,
Oh, yeah.
Shamali.
Hold it. What about announcements?
Oh, okay. Forget it, Shamali. I take that back.
We're back
going on,
to
Mary?
recovery. Hi, good morning. We have back to recovery group meetings today at 1 and 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. And for our Patreon members, there's an asana class today at 3:30 with Mangala Chitra Devi.
Mangala Chitra Devi.
Mangala Chitra Devi, Harry Bo. Oh, we also want to announce we have our 200-hour teacher training, but there are some spots if people want to just come up to the farm and audit the class. Some people are going to do that. They're just going to come and audit, and they stay for 5 or 6 days, and they get the beautiful prasad. They get to do some yoga. They get to chill out and get the hell out of wherever they live.
Huh.
Come hang with us. So if you're interested in that,
Amy
reach out
Stellar looks
to-
interested.
yeah, reach out to me today. And you could do that via Instagram. How about that? Or what? Or supersoultrainings@gmail.com. Sure. Okay, but those spots are limited, so reach out today. Okay. It's time to bring on Shamali. Shamali, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an
Hello, Shamali.
It's been great hanging out with you. We hung out with you for the last 2 weekends. I was at the wedding
yeah,
last week in California. And then
all
you
over
came
the
to,
place.
then you came
East
to
Coast,
New
West
York.
Coast.
Yeah, coming off of such a beautiful weekend here in New York.
Yeah, now Shamali is the daughter of two of our good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And
Engineer Lamani and Radha
that
Vinod.
we've known. So we've known her since she was a little baby, but now she's like an adult. It's like she's one of us. Like now I'm your age, right? We're the same age, aren't we?
Same thing. Same.
Ish.
Yes, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're sort of the same. No, you actually could be my daughter too.
But hold it,
So-
Raghunath. Let's get it come up front. Shamali is she's got a podcast.
She's got a podcast. Well,
Yeah.
we're called the Competitor Podcast.
It's competitive. No, complimentary.
Complimentary. That's what I meant to say.
Complimentary. Can you tell us about your what's your podcast? Well, hold it. We're going to talk about it first. Just tell us what the name of your podcast is.
It's the Modern Yogi Podcast. Totally not competitor. We're so inspired by you guys. I mean, you guys pioneered the whole concept of doing a Bhakti Yoga podcast. So you're inspiring people all around the world and ourselves as well.
Oh, okay. And we're going to talk about that podcast, but let's just first get a little background. I've known you since you were born.
Yeah.
Right? Because your parents were close friends of mine.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time in the community where they lived, which was a Bhakti community in Dallas, Texas. There's a beautiful, incredibly beautiful Krishna temple in Dallas, right, Raghunath?
Yeah, it's breathtaking. And then it's got all these, it's got this ancient deity in the temple.
Yeah.
Krishna, what's it?
Radha
Krishna Chandra, Kali Chunji.
Radha Kalachandji.
And it's got all these original B.G. Sharma massive works
Mind blowing.
on the walls.
That's kind of like B.G. Sharma was like the pinnacle of that Rajasthani style of art.
Yeah.
And that whole temple room was like just wallpapered with his massive, incredibly rich, beautiful paintings. that's like, just that there makes that temple like a, like a tourist spot.
I
what
know.
to
It's
speak of
almost
beautiful
like if
radical
Keith
tree.
Haring was in your house just painting the walls. It's
But
got
way
that
better.
type of, but extremely better.
Okay, but so I was living as like a brahmachari, as a monk, commonly in that temple. That's where my guru was headquartered for many years, and although I was a young monk, I was close with many of the families around there, and including your parents and Janila and Radha Vinod.
Yeah.
And you're a little princess of the community, and you also had an ice skating career,
Yeah.
right? You were going to heading for the Olympics, kind of, was it right?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
really?
training, I mean, every day, 8 hours a day, the entire year. And my goal, I was already speaking to the Argentine Federation. They were going to let me represent them in the 2014
What?
Olympics.
Oh,
What
wow.
happened?
Well, I tore all of the ligaments in my right ankle, and that
Oh my God.
shattered at 18. I had almost like an identity crisis of who am I apart from what I do. And growing up with this philosophy, we know we're not the body, we're something so much deeper. But there was an
Oh.
opportunity to like, okay, apply the teachings.
Wow.
Wow.
And so,
Wait, Christopher, you got to
yeah.
digest that. You know what?
Okay.
You know how much they practice to be
Oh, it's
these
intense.
top
Yeah.
rung athletes before school, after school. There is no vacations. They're becoming the best in the world.
That's like
And
yogic,
then
like focus.
everything falls apart. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I mean, the pressure at that level, because imagine you train for years and it all boils down to 3 minutes on the ice with a whole panel of judges being able to analyze frame by frame every move. And that was actually where my mom would speak to me a lot about the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, because, essentially Arjuna was having an existential crisis and wanted to run off to the forest. But Krishna was like, no, don't. This has all already happened. Just do your duty and fight. So like similarly, my mom would be like, this has already happened. It's kind of like a dream, a stage. So just do what you've practiced, be detached from the results, let go of the outcome and just let muscle memory take over. So
Wow.
from young, all aspects of my life, the teachings of the Gita were able to intertwine into, what I did.
That's incredible. Now, is there anything else from your background you'd like to share that's, how you grew up that goes into the podcast?
Well, before I do, small fun fact, when you were sharing about growing up in the Dallas community, Kastuba and my parents have the same spiritual teacher. And fun fact, my parents and Kastuba and I used to, because my mom and Kastuba would distribute these spiritual texts, these books. So they used to travel around following the Grateful Dead, the band, because it would attract such a large audience that was such an ideal place to be. So we became kind of like groupies following around the Grateful Dead. And my mom used to tell me that I was like 3 years old, and the hippies at the time would inhale the helium from the balloons, and I'd be like, wow, pretty balloons, and she'd be like, oh, that one.
Yeah, they're nitrous oxide. They would sell those balloons,
Right. So
a drug. Yeah. You're like, oh, the nice.
So
balloon.
who else is on the podcast? What do you want to introduce the other ladies you do this with?
Yeah. I do it with myself and 2 other girls, part of the Los Angeles Bhakti Yoga community. It's Priya Darshini and Shama Sangita. So all 3 of us are a part of it. And actually, Priya was the one who had approached us with this idea that she wanted to start a podcast, kind of to inspire her younger sister to listen to the Gita. And at the time, I used to have a YouTube channel where I'd put out positive messages. But when I got into college and my master's program, I no longer had time to maintain it. So I was like really praying to Krishna to please give me an opportunity to engage what you've given me in service. I really wanted to do more service. So last year, 2 opportunities came up around similar times doing the sage groups with you guys. It was actually Kastuba who had called my mom and I to do it. And I mean, that was such a answer to the prayers of being more engaged. Side note, it's so powerful what you guys are doing with these sage groups. I mean, you're reaching people all around the world, and shout out to our sage group, which they're so genuine and sincere, and they inspire us. So
you do that together with your mother, right?
Yeah. Both my mom and I, we help lead one, and it's just really nice to do it with her. So that came up around a similar time that then Priya had approached Shama and I with this idea to do the podcast. So we were like, yeah, why not? I mean, we had already, all of us I listened to Wisdom of the Sages, super inspired by you guys. Like I said, you pioneered the Bhakti Yoga podcast. So we decided to do it over the Bhagavad Gita. And, it's one thing to be good friends, But like you guys know, the dynamic when you come together on a show can be totally different. So I still remember we finished recording episode 1 and we all looked around the table and we were like, whoa, this was magic. This was really cool.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
We really felt it had legs. It had room to go somewhere. And, yeah, we were really inspired to be able to do something that we deeply believe in.
Now, do you follow a skeleton like we go through the Bhagavatam? Do you how do you
Yeah. We go every week by week, we break through the Bhagavad Gita, releasing episodes once a week, and we go text by text. So we read all of the text and then we highlight things that we find important in the purport, and we go intertwining it with stories, our lives. We like to see ourselves as book club buddies, that we're just kind of being a part of this ongoing conversation. As Krishna started it with Arjuna, we're continuing it, just keeping it alive with the whatever audience we have. So yeah.
One thing I like about your podcast, I think you, like, if you took a gradation from how you could present bhakti, from like on one side you have, it's really meant for people that have been practicing it for a long time and have total faith in it. The terminology and the concepts are, that's one end. And then the other end is like, you make it so accessible to people that you're getting a little bit of a foot in the door, but you're not really learning so much about what it's really all about. And with Raghunath and I, we're at a certain point where it's kind of like it's real, like we're reading straight from Bhagavatam and we're talking about, but we're trying to translate it into how it's practical in the daily life. And I think you guys hit about that same point in the gradation. And I think it's a really good place to be. We need more right at that. I appreciate all the whole gradation, but I think we really need more like right on that level where people can learn it, really get into it for real.
Right.
But also make it really practical and understandable and accessible and make it work in their life. And I think the three of you do that well, where you're reading it together. It's obvious that you all kind of grew up in the tradition and you have and you've put this to work in your own lives, but a new person can listen to your podcast and be like, oh, I've been reading Bhagavad Gita, I never understood that, or oh, this makes sense. So I think you guys hit that really nice. And the rapport between the three of you really works nice. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Modern Yogi Podcast.
Let's go to the call to action. Where is your podcast? Can you get it wherever you get podcasts?
Yeah, it's on all platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcast. If you search at Modern Yogi Podcast, 2 of them pop up. We are not the one with the blonde lady on the cover. We're with the one with the city in the background.
Weird. There's a second Modern Yogi Podcast. Let's blow that one out of the water. Just kidding. Totally.
Everybody go to the right Modern Yogi Podcast.
Yeah, the right one.
And give it a 5-star review. Listen to it. If you like it, give it a 5-star review and a nice.
Yeah. Does it have your name Shamali on it? If we look it up?
I mean, I think in the description it says the host, Shamali Priya.
Okay. So Shamali Priya, go to that one, follow it now, give it a 5-star review, even though you haven't heard it. And then just do that.
No, listen to it too.
And listen to it, of course, and listen to it. But these girls, these ladies work so well together. I've only seen the clips on YouTube. I mean, on Instagram, and listened to them. But now I'm going to listen today.
We're also on Instagram. If you search at Modern Yogi Podcast, that we post little short clippets of what we do. And, Kastuba, what you were saying about making it accessible to a wide range of audience, I think that's so important because this is such a timeless philosophy that can apply to any aspect of life. So it's what a shame when we isolate it to just one group and speak in all this terminology that makes it inaccessible. Like, it's nice when we can break it down. And a few episodes ago, when you guys actually so kindly brought up our podcast, you were making a point that when you try to give this philosophy to others, you have to deeply internalize it because you're going to be confronted with questions and doubts that really make you have to dig deeper and see, okay, how can I apply this in not just like by the book way, but what does this mean in our real life? How is this so applicable in modern times?
Right.
Great. So by the way, we have a community here. I'm just going to give a call out to the community. Support this podcast. Go to the platform. This helps podcasts grow. We want to encourage bhakti lifestyle. And this is a great way you can, if you want to serve Krishna and Guru, this is a great way to do it. Spread this around, give it to people. listen to it, give it 5 stars, follow it on YouTube, like it, hit the bell icon.
Are you on YouTube?
Comment, write
Not
comments on Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
This helps tremendously. These things help tremendously with getting higher rankings. And you get enough of those things, and then you get bigger, and then you start turning people on who have not, who just might like search yoga, and then all of a sudden this will come up. So go do that right now while you're listening to this podcast. It really helps. Shamali, thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. And thank you for what you're doing. It's so powerful.
Keep up the good work. Thanks for the podcast. Thank the other ladies. Thanks for helping out with the Sage groups. It's
Yeah.
appreciated. You have like a radiance of vivaciousness about yourself as your mom and dad do. And we
Oh,
really want to support you. And we're glad you're part of our community.
thank you so much. I'm so grateful for both of you.
Haribo.
Haribo.
That was nice.
She's good. I think Shamali's born to be like a television host or something.
I
like
know
that.
she's got that. She's got that. But you know what? You know what really like excited me about when I hear that story? The ice skating disaster. That's when the hook sank in with me.
Okay.
'Cause you need some real misery, material existence for a person to have real
Heartbreak.
depth in life. You know, that's what I'm finding. You need that.
It's so cinematic too, right? Like, beautiful young lady, graceful, talented skate, and then you're down on that ice,
Then you're
right? There's
down
that moment where you're
ice,
down on that ice and you're just like in pain.
everything fell apart.
Yeah.
You know, that's where that's where her memoir starts. I was on the ground. People were around me. The spotlights were on me. My mother was crying. My father was screaming. You know, maybe someone kicked her over.
Or no, Raghunath.
It could have been something like that.
You see, this is why we
No,
can't
I'm just
trust
saying.
anything
You
you
want to make
say.
a
You start
book.
to
You
throw
want to
these
sell that
things in there.
book. Make a
Maybe
twist,
Jesus showed
plot
up.
Twist.
Maybe Jesus showed up right there.
There was an evil person there who kicked her, who put a rock in her skate.
Or maybe like loosen the blade on her
Yes,
skate. Or
loosen
did
the
something like
blade.
that, right?
A trip line, perhaps.
Oh,
Oh man. Oh Krishna.
all right, Raghu.
Okay.
All right, we ready? This is where
You know what's
check-
also good? You can go
Yeah.
back and forth. Modern yogi, wisdom of the sages. Because sometimes you listen to wisdom of the sages. You know what? I'm sick of these guys.
you see,
Need a
Modern Yogi
break.
podcast is more professional than us. They got really good equipment. They sound really good, but they
We have
don't
good
go through
equipment.
Zoom like us. They do it in like it's a studio.
Oh yeah,
kind of
you know
setting
that's our problem. But we made
Yeah.
that concession because
For the
we
people.
love our Zoomers.
for the people.
We suffer for you.
And I think is it
Our-
weekly? Give me a thumbs up. Is it a weekly thing? How often? Yeah,
A weekly.
they're
Our
once a week.
podcast quality died for your sins, Zoomers.
Okay,
Jesus wanted me to tell you that.
that's right.
Okay, but Zoom is fun. I like having fun. I think I act better. I think I'm a better
Person,
teacher.
because of
No,
the audience?
teacher when I see other people interacting. That's why Mara's always putting this to like Kostuba view. So like when you speak, it goes to you, and then when I speak, it goes to me. I hate that view. I like to see the people.
Yeah, that's
I go
because
to gallery view.
No,
I go to
Mara's
gallery view. See
right.
that? I see everyone's beautiful little faces.
and then you just give your monologues. You see, but when you see me, then there's a possibility for dialogue.
I'm not a
Dialogue.
dialoguer.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not a
then
dialogue.
you're in a podcast with one other person, though. So
Sorry about that. It's not my strong suit conversation.
I know.
I was one of these guys in the town square standing on a pulpit just speaking. People were like, whatever.
So you got
I
23
was like
hours a day
John
to
the
be that.
Baptist type.
You could do that for 23 hours a day, Raghunath, but just for 1 hour a day, just try this. All right,
Krishna.
let's get into it. Ready?
Narayanam namaskrityanam chaivanarottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama bhakti bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troubles of the heart we can eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmedatam Yena Tasmaya Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, Text 33.
Ready?
You ready?
I think we're wrapping up the prayers of, what is Aryama?
Aryama.
What is that?
Okay. It's an inside joke that none of you know.
I don't
We
know.
used to, on the way to school when my big kids were little, we used to play the 10th chapter game, I call it, where I would say, out of mountains, I am, and the kids would have to guess which Meru. Oh, good job, Mara. Out of immovable things, I am.
The Himalayas.
Ooh, got it, Mara. Right. Out of Pandavas, I am.
You, Arjuna.
Yeah, and of seasons, I am.
Flower bearing spring.
Flower bearing spring. Okay, so we'd play that game for the kids. So I remember there was one time, and I said of, what is it? Aryama's of deceased ancestors, I think, of deceased ancestors, and there was a pause, and then one of my kids goes, Aryama! So every time I say Aryama, I say Aryama. So inside joke. Okay.
So what verse are we on now? Say again.
33.
33.
You should play that game with people. If you have kids, play the 10th chapter game. It's a great game. It's a great way to learn these things and talk about Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita. And for kids, it's just a game. Kids just like games. Give them a Krishna conscious game.
Okay.
Play that with Rooney. He's been part of it, but Tarun has no sibling his age, so he gets cheated out of some of this stuff. Yeah, that's why he's got Tommy Fawcett. Okay. Oh, my Lord, your name, fame, form, and bodily features, text 33, are expanded into countless forms. No one can determine exactly how many forms exist. Yet you yourself, in your incarnation, as the learned scholar Kapila Dev, have analyzed the cosmic manifestation as containing 24 elements. Therefore,
Can you explain that?
No. Therefore, if one is
Hold
interested
it.
in
What do you want?
philosophy,
Slow down. What? Not only did you not engage with me, you just blew past me. People are hearing that; they're not understanding what it means.
explain it, please.
You know what it means.
I don't want to do this. You know, I hate the Sankhya 24 element thing. You're gonna make me break it down. The sense.
No, we don't have to get
sense
into a long
acquiring
thing about it.
elements.
We don't have to get into a long thing about it.
Let me just breeze over this part.
No. Slow down.
You
Just
do it.
one
You do it.
second.
I'm stepping
It
back.
becomes meaningless if you just blow through stuff and nobody understands what it means.
It's not meaningless. I'm just in my mind. I'm just like, okay. I
People
got it.
can't grasp the meaning. People can't.
No, you
grasp
just
the
say
meaning.
next sometimes. Next.
No need to. Raghunath.
I don't want to.
I could have been
You're
done.
walking. I appreciate that. I'm riding a motorcycle through this. Okay.
I suppose
You're
that's
walking.
one.
You're appreciating the daisies. I'm just cruising through this verse. Go.
Okay.
Break it apart.
Okay. He says, no one could determine exactly how many forms exist, yet you yourself, in your incarnation as the learned scholar Kapila. We read about how Lord Vishnu appears as Kapila back in the 3rd canto, that this Kapila analyzed the universe, right? The cosmic manifestation, and broke it down into 24 different elements as part of a process called Sankhya, which means to count. You break it down into different elements, and as part of a process for self-realization, that I realized that there are these 24 elements, but there's an element beyond them that observes them, and that's me, the spirit. So there are 24 material elements, and then beyond that, there is the soul, which is observing them. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
Otherwise, it doesn't
Very
mean
good.
anything, right?
Well, it does. I
Not to
just
people that don't know.
accepted that and kept going.
There was nothing to accept until I said that, if you're unfamiliar with it. Now keep
Does
reading.
this happen on the Modern Yogi podcast? You guys get into it like this?
She says, yes, they do. Okay,
text.
please continue.
Therefore, if one is interested in Sankhya philosophy, which I'm not, by which one can enumerate the different truths, he must hear it from you and Kastuba. Unfortunately, non-devotees simply
Are not interested in it.
Unfortunately, non-devotees simply count the different elements and remain ignorant of your actual form. Now that's interesting.
Okay, let's dig into that.
What
But
they
now
do-
that's
what
meaningful because we have
non-devotees
that
do is
background.
They try to break down the material elements and let's just study those.
Right.
And they think they're going to find the absolute truth. Let's just study, hydrogen or, and they try to break things down to their smallest elements, but still they can't find the magic. What is underneath the atom? What's underneath the electron? They can't find the energy beneath it. That's Krishna. They forget about Krishna. They throw it away. We're not going to study your old world mythological concept of God. We're going to break down all these material elements, and then we're going to figure out these mysteries of the universe. There is no mystery. We're going to debunk your God theory. What did you call it? What was that book you were mentioning?
The God delusion.
Myth. The God delusion.
Yes.
Yeah, they're in their own Maya delusion. God delusion.
What you're sharing is you're really keying in on something here. And the Bhagavatam's keying in on it, right? That
I just got it from the Bhagavatam.
What's being said here in the Bhagavatam is that Lord Vishnu appears as Kapila Dev. And this is in a sense, a scientist, right? This is a person that's examining the material elements that compose the world, right? But examining them with a purpose, understanding what's behind it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you, Raghunath, what are you doing?
I'm preparing
Be
for
with
my
me.
next
No,
presentation.
but I want to talk with
and
you
I'm
right
listening.
now. Until you put that book down, I'm not saying anything, and then this podcast is going nowhere.
There's 2 ears here, one here, one here.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, come on, man. Real, for real. Let's talk.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I was listening. Go.
So Kapila Dev comes and he's saying, yes, we should have that scientific curiosity, right?
Yes.
That's healthy. Nobody's trying to suppress that. We should be eager to understand the world that we live in and what is it. But we're fools. We're like children. We're like blind people. If we can't expand our mind enough to understand that there's that which, at least you have to admit, there's the possibility that there's that which lies beyond what we can perceive through these senses, beyond these 24 material elements, right? And we've been discussing over the past week or so, again, imagine if you take the Mona Lisa, you have the original right there, right?
Yeah.
And you're a scientist with the ability to kind of like break down what it consists of. What does that painting consist of? Well, it's got this oil paint. Okay, well, what is oil paint? It's a combination of a certain type of oil with certain kind of pigments, and we can see that, there's a canvas, right? What is the canvas? I assume it's made of cotton, right? So you could break it down. Okay, what is the Mona Lisa? It's cotton. It's oil. It's pigment made, from different, minerals and so on. That's what the Mona Lisa is, and it's nothing more. There's no proof that there's anything more to this.
Well, there's a
right?
blue streak. Let's break down the blue paint and get to the bottom of the blue paint.
And you can do that, yeah. But if you, and at the end of it, you just say that's all there is. Well, then someone has to say, but what about what's represented in the painting? What about how it's all come together into the form of this woman?
This is Sankhya. This is material science. It's breaking down the paint, the strokes, the frame, right? The canvas, and missing out on the actual creator or the painter, the artist.
We've been also speaking about C.S. Lewis a bit in recent episodes.
Yes.
And, he's a brilliant thinker, brilliant thinker. And he made this point, which I thought was very interesting.
Tell me.
Well, it's basically you have two competing schools of what is reality, right? You have your Richard Dawkins, who, quite frankly, is a silly little boy.
Yeah, we don't
the way that he thinks.
Don't like him.
I'm honestly, he's just like he's a fanatic. He's a religious fanatic.
Yeah.
But just against God. But everything, all the things that he proposes that are problems with religion, he embraces in his own thinking. Right? His denial.
Why does he read the Bhagavad Gita? Time I am. You don't believe in God? Do you believe in time? Krishna is time.
Well, he would say that I don't know if you would accept that argument, but yeah. But here's what C.S. Lewis said about these two different schools of thought. He said, if in fact this world has no designer, and as people like Dawkins say, that it's just a meaningless flux of atoms, right, without any design behind it, well then, if that's the case, now think about this, Raghunath, okay? This may blow your mind, what I'm about to say. I think you're going to like this.
Okay.
So then our thoughts, what goes on through our mind is completely dependent on the brain, right?
Yeah.
And the brain is completely dependent on the laws of biochemistry, right?
Yeah.
And biochemistry is nothing but a meaningless flux of atoms. So if that's the case, then why are one person's thoughts more meaningful than another person's thoughts? It's all just a big explosion of motion. Understand?
Yeah.
So why should Richard Dawkins' thoughts be any more significant than any other person's thoughts? It's all just a meaningless flux of atoms.
Then why even talk about it?
Why even talk about it?
Why even talk about it? If it's all nothing, who cares?
Right.
It's all not. That's what it's such a depressing way to live your life.
It truly is.
A pointless, meaningless existence where love, even the concept of love and attachment to your children, it's all fabricated in the mind. And it has no actual meaning. Who wants to adopt? Who wants to sign that contract?
And now this is what Dawkins then went to the other side. The idea of that, no, there is design behind it and there is meaning behind it. And so he said, speaking in the context of Christianity, and I would argue that he could be speaking very similarly in from the Vedic perspective, or the broader spiritual perspective. Mm-hmm. He says, when I hear from the teachings of the Bible, it not only is, Dawkins has his faith in these teachings. He's got no proof for it.
Yeah.
It kind of eliminates the need for proof for it, right? He says that if he's looking at the Mona Lisa, he says there's no proof that there was a painter. There's no proof. And until you can show me proof, well, you know what? You're never going to get that proof by with a microscope breaking down the paint. You have to look at the painting and think about it.
It's the religion of material science.
Yeah. And so he said, so in one sense, you have two faiths and you have to sum up which one makes more sense. But what C.S. Lewis says was Christianity, it means like you're looking at the world like it's a rising sun. Not only do you see the sun, but the sun helps you see everything else. And so he's saying through Christianity, not only does it give me a vision of God, but through these teachings, I can understand this world in a way that makes sense. It does not make sense to say that nobody painted the Mona Lisa. It doesn't make sense.
It does make sense.
For crying out loud, it doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense.
So when you look at this world and you look at the sunrise, if you look at the human body, if you look at the solar system, if you look at any plant, for crying out loud.
For crying out loud. People need God. Come on. Why are you cheating these people out of hope?
There's a painter behind that painting.
People need God in this world. You know what? I think I'm changing my bio again.
Okay.
I think it's gone full circle. I'm a preacher. For years, I've avoided that word. I hate that word. Don't preach. Don't call me a preacher. Preaching is like old school. I am a preacher.
A manic street preacher?
Vedic culture. Huh?
Manic street preacher?
Yes. Yes. I'm a
soapbox.
street preacher. Yes. Yeah, I am. I'm okay with that. I'm a preacher. Is that okay?
It's all right with me. I mean,
people need God. Preach it. Preach it.
And we're not saying devoid of the competition with other religions. We're right. Everybody else is wrong. Devoid of the scare and guilt tactics.
Yeah, I use that sometimes.
Maybe a little bit.
I go to hell. There are hellish planets. You're going to rebirth as a duck. Okay, go on.
So in any case, that's what I want to. I thought these 2 points that C.S. Lewis makes are very important. One is your thoughts are meaningless. Your whole book, The God Delusion, according to you.
Your book is delusion.
Is just a random a flux of atoms. So why should I give it any more credibility than any other random?
Here's the interesting thing, Kostua. Check this out. If he was actually even a little wise, he'd be like, well, actually, if it is all a delusion, why are you doing the book? To help people out of any direction and have them understand that there is no direction? Is that your goal?
He would say
no direction. Why you bother telling people? Let me go with this. Why bother telling people that there's no direction in life if there's actually no direction? Oh, is it because you want profit or distinction? Is that actually going to fulfill you? Does profit if you actually analyze sense gratification, are you doing this because it feels better? Actually, for those who are actually into sense gratification, there's a limit to your sense gratification. Why don't you take your pleasure up a notch? There's something more pleasurable than sense gratification, and that is mukti. Just to analyze, to control the senses, that's actually more pleasurable than indulging in the senses. That's why people get into yoga. They've indulged themselves in sense gratification. Then they want a higher, more refined, more lasting pleasure where they go inside to find more pleasure. Now, that's just a material thing. That's without God anywhere. Bhukti, you're just trying to enjoy your senses. That's the low-rung animal life type of enjoyment. If you just dig a little bit deeper, you can actually have more pleasure. We're not even talking about God. We're trying to help you. So it seems like you just want either profit or distinction or adoration.
Well, he would say that religion, in a ridiculously one-sided, warped observation, he would say religion is the cause of all the evils in the world, all the pain, all the suffering, all the war.
How about materialism?
Yeah.
I think that's a bigger cause of pain and loss and destruction, etc.
No, yeah, and it's so, you take a person that's a scientist that's supposed to penetrate levels of sophistication in understanding any particular subject, right?
Yeah.
Like the layman will look at something and not understand it very well, understand it only on a surface level. And the scientists can because they familiarize themselves with the different sciences, they're able to speak on it on a much deeper level of depth, a much deeper depth of understanding. But when he approaches these theological questions, he's approaching them just on the total surface. I see that Christianity was responsible for the Crusades, and therefore religion caused all the pain in the world, right?
Well, suppose I go out and I, and start doing horrible things. Raghunath's addicted to robbing banks. He goes in there with a squirt gun, wears a mask, and starts robbing banks. What has that got? What has that got to do with my theology that I'm behind or my spiritual practice? It just means I'm a nutcase. I've lost my mind. If I do something, or if the Christian crusades have done something abominable, what's that got to do with the teachings of Jesus? Come on.
Well, or it's something like this, Raghunath. It's something like, let's take medicine, for example.
Yeah.
Why does medicine exist?
Hopefully, the idea is to heal people, assist people out of pain.
Okay, but if we look at the broader world of medicine, we see that it's been exploited in different times in different ways, and it's been the cause of a lot of pain. We got people that are, addicted to all kind of medications, and it ruins their lives. That's a huge issue right now, right? We've got people that have been quacks that have done it merely, have not minded, cheating others for profit. So on a surface level, I could look at examples like that and say medicine is the cause of all the suffering. It's evil, right? So that's the way Dawkins thinks. It's childish. And when you're that bent on it, it means you got issues. You know, Einstein didn't have those issues. Was he less of a scientist? You know, it's just he had issues. That simple. Dawkins had issues. That's my conclusion.
Dawkins. Okay, me too.
All right. Why don't we read the commentary?
We have no issues. You and me have no issues.
Okay, let's read
Mara's newest thing. Whenever we're like getting down on something,
evil
or something,
giggling. Oh,
we throw it backwards and say, "Yeah, because we're perfect and smart."
it's not a we thing. She's trying to help you, Raghunath. She's
What?
trying to help you.
I'm trying to help her. I
All
can
right.
help you, Mara.
Okay, so why don't you read the commentary?
Philosophers and scientists have been trying to study the entire cosmic situation and have been theorizing and calculating.
Why are you reading
different-
Prabhupada's commentary in that bizarre voice?
It's just a persona. I thought it would be interesting. Philosophers and scientists have been trying to study the entire cosmic situation and have been theorizing and calculating in different ways for millions and millions of years.
That's the whole, okay, the paint is made out of oil. The paint is made out of pigment. There's a canvas made out of cotton. That thing.
Yeah. Theorizing, calculating in different ways for millions and millions of years. However, the speculative research, right? That's what it is, of so-called scientists, right? Isn't that beautiful? A so-called scientist, because Prabhupada would argue that a real scientist understands the science of the self and how to actually control your senses so you can go inside to find higher things. Not
Or,
just,
yeah.
right?
Also, that wisdom, that science, it's dependent on objectivity, right? You're supposed to remove everything from the experiment, including your own biases.
Oh, I like that, Kastuba. That's a nice little plot
And if you
twist
can't
there,
remove
yes.
your biases from your experimentation, you're a so-called scientist only.
Yes.
No matter how many degrees.
And
you-
so-called philosophers.
Oh. Yeah.
Your so-called philosophy is always interrupted when he dies, and the law of natures go on without regard for their work. I was a great philosopher.
Read the whole sentence. Read the whole sentence.
Okay. However, the speculative research work of the so-called scientist or philosopher is always interrupted when he dies, and the laws of nature go on without regard for his work.
It's so powerful. It's almost like, sometimes, like let's say our human race just really destroys the earth, really creates a nightmare,
What do you mean?
to the point
if
where
they
we
do-
all
What do you
just
mean
wipe
if
each other.
they do?
What?
The water tables are contaminated.
But we're all still alive and everything like that,
Yeah, it's like life after the apocalypse.
But it could reach an apocalyptic point,
Yeah, it could get worse, I guess.
and wherein we wipe ourselves out. We're no longer destroying the earth because we just wiped ourselves out.
What's left?
But my point is, then the earth goes on, right? And what reclaims all the land, you know what I mean?
Highways will get covered by trees.
Exactly.
Just horses wandering around lost.
So all Dawkins's little book, the God Delusion,
Yes.
that's going to be just lost in time, completely gone. Just a poof.
Yeah.
And this world, in this universe, will keep moving in its cycles. And some other idiot will come up and say all this stupid, ridiculous stuff. It's so meaningless. They are so meaningless.
Who's the most famous guy you ever met distributing books? And were they into it, or who was really into it?
While I
Like,
was
thank
distributing
you, and who-
books?
wait a second, wait. While you were distributing books, who was really into it, and who was like, "This sucks"?
People that were really into it, Barry White, KRS-One, come to mind immediately.
And who was like, "Get out of here"?
Oh, a guy in Aerosmith, the bass player, that guy was really, he was like, it was like kryptonite when I broke that Bhagavad Gita out. He just ran, There are others like that too. Why are you bringing that up?
I don't know. Just thought about that. It was just
Okay.
crazy. Hey, before we get into the takeaways,
Yeah.
here's a mic for Mara.
Oh.
Hold the mic. Actually, I hold the
Oh
mic.
no.
Yes. I'm going to put you and Kastuba on the spot. And if you want to play this game, get to the chat board right now. I'm
What?
going to just do a couple of them.
What,
I'm
10th
going to do the
chapter?
10th chapter game to show you how it's played.
Okay.
Understand?
No, just you got to play it. And you got to beat Kastuba.
You gotta be. Why do you make this a competition?
down here.
It doesn't have to be.
Rocco,
like
get
that.
over here. You want to be on the game? See down here? 10th chapter game. Ready? Of all Rudras, I am. Lord Shiva. Of priests, O Arjuna, nobody be the chief.
I can't hear Mara.
Brihaspati.
Brihaspati, yes. Okay.
You're supposed to be playing too.
I'm not
Stuba.
stupid. You got to play. You got to beat
Well,
Mara.
so you have to address me. I don't know. Oh, are we trying to hit
this
the
is
buzzer?
for
Or
you.
something?
Whoever says it first gets the
Okay.
point. Get it?
I got you.
Of many hooded nagas, I am.
Shesha?
Yeah, Ananta. Yeah. Of aquatics, I am.
The shark. No, the shark? The whale.
Demigod Varuna.
Oh, man.
Of departed ancestors, I am.
Aryama.
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 Wait a
Aryama.
second. Aryama. Oh. And among dispensers of law, I am.
Why can't Yama?
Yama, the Lord of Death. Yes. Okay. Takeaways, Mara. Isn't that a fun game?
That was fun, Ragnar.
That was fun.
Play it with your friends.
That was a lot of fun.
It's fun.
All right.
Of the senses I am.
The mind.
Well done, Raghu.
I got this. I played it for generations of my children. Okay. Okay. Mara, takeaways, please.
Have a healthy scientific curiosity.
We can't hear you so well. Closer to the mic, please.
Have a healthy scientific curiosity.
Okay.
Okay.
Expand your mind to the possibilities beyond our perception.
Expand.
That sounds like a, okay. Okay.
Don't believe in God. Believe in time.
Don't stop believing. How about that?
Okay.
Don't stop believing.
He was just a small town boy
He's just a cowherd boy.
living in the cowherd world.
Village.
If it's all in
Everyone's gonna be saying that all day.
He
was
took
just
a bullock
cowherd
cart
boy.
going anywhere.
Some will win, some will lose. Some are born to sing the blues.
You remember that video of that little sweet little Indian devotee kid that was singing Ma Mantra to that melody?
I can't remember.
I sent you that video. I sent it to you so you could share with your kids because I know you're all into that song. I'll find it.
Okay.
Drew's trying to get it. So, okay. If it's all a meaningless flux of atoms, who cares?
Yeah.
It's all a meaningless flux of atoms. Who cares?
You can't find the painter by evaluating the chemistry of the paint.
Okay.
Just like a painting without a painter. Absurdity. No, I don't want to run away. I want to embrace reality. Shelter, circa 1994.
Remove your biases from the experiment.
There you go. Or you're a so-called scientist.
Are you ma?
Dawkins has issues.
There you go.
We don't.
And,
Yeah.
and people need God. Preach it.
Preach it. Why does this come up on my? We're playing the YouTube. We're playing the YouTube version of the Mayaporis, and look what comes up on my ad. Biker babes await you.
Okay.
I've been searching motorcycles, so I get biker babes.
It means you've
Pretty
also
bad.
been searching
I don't want to get
babes,
targeted
perhaps.
as a guy looking for biker babes. I'm not looking for biker babes. Just putting that out there. Can't I like motorcycles without they're like, okay, go to the lowest common denominator that men want.
Everybody go check out Modern Yogi Podcast.
Modern Yoga Podcast. Everyone go like that, follow that, hit that bell icon, and everybody do it to us too if you're not following us on Instagram, all social media platforms. That's a service you can do too.
Can't hear you very well, Reverend.
I can't hear you. Look at that. Look at that. You hear me?
Again, you go to your childish responses, you know? It's just like, I'm trying to help
Okay,
you.
everybody.
And I get the Tarun coming at me.
It's a school day. You're going to see Tarun soon, my friend. We're going to Italy. We're going to Croatia.